Yo, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm very pleased to announce the release of my new product, the HaloRC MasterLink. So this little device is connected to your DJI Inspire 2 master controller and provides a control link either through HaloRC or Crossfire to control your gimbal without the need of a slave controller. Hence the name, the MasterLink. So traditionally, to control the gimbal, either on the Pandora or the Inspire 2, you need to use two controllers. One set as the master, one set as the slave. The slave controller is the one that's able to control the gimbal, and it communicates with the master controller over a Wi-Fi link. By using the MasterLink and connecting it into the CAN bus port on the master controller, it eliminates the need of using the slave controller. So you don't have to use the crappy DJI gimbals, and you can connect it to your Express LRS or Crossfire transmitter. For example, I have my MasterLink bound to my Radio Master Boxer, which has got the AG01 CNC Hall sensor gimbals. So they just feel a lot better and they're far more precise. Got loads of buttons and controls and potentiometers that can all be set to different functions of the Inspire 2. So obviously you can control the gimbal, but you can recenter, start and stop record. There's focus control, auto focusing, and a few other bits that we'll get into later in the video. The video feed that you get out of the master controller is going to be the lowest latency and the highest quality possible, because it doesn't have to be retransmitted to a slave controller. So for using this setup, you would just use this to connect to the drone, and you'd use the video either using a crystal sky monitor, or I found that you actually get better results just using a HDMI monitor. So you take the HDMI feed out of this and for your video, and you control the gimbal with this. This also gives you the ability to actually feed the video straight into a video transmitter like a DJI SDR or the full fat DJI transmission system. That way you can transmit the video over a much more stable link from the master controller, and you can have control of the gimbal over a much more stable link by using Express LRS or Crossfire. This allows you to extend the range quite a lot and kind of use the master controller as a bit of a relay station. So this would pick up the video and send out the control link, and this would send the control link to this, and your SDR would give you the video link. So I've got a demonstration of that coming up in the video later, so you can see what it's capable of. Okay, so as I said at the start, it's available in a Crossfire or an Express LRS version. These both come pre-fitted with receivers, brand new receivers. Express LRS, of course, all you have to do is wait for the Wi-Fi to kick in, and then you'll be able to flash it with your firmware with a binding phrase, and away you go. Crossfire, first time binding will work fine. Subsequent bindings, if you need to bind it to a different transmitter, you will have to open up the case so that you can push the button. You can power them off of USB or off of the CAN bus port of the controller. So for binding, you could just plug this into a 5-volt USB and it would power up the receiver and allow you to bind before even connecting it to your DJI controller. Or you can just go ahead and plug it into your DJI controller and bind it when it powers up. Okay, so let's head over to the bench now and take a closer look at what it can do. Okay, so after binding your MasterLink to your chosen controller, you're just going to stick it to the top of the DJI controller like so, and you're going to plug the cable into the CAN bus port like that. So now the MasterLink is connected to the DJI controller. We can go ahead and power up the controller, and the MasterLink will power up as well. Now it starts off by flashing red like that because it hasn't detected the Crossfire link yet. So just turn on my controller. And once my controller finds the MasterLink, that should turn green. Okay, so now the MasterLink is connected to my radio, and obviously the DJI controller is connected to my Pandora. I can arm the system and I now have control over the gimbal. And obviously I've got loads of different commands all assigned to all my different controls on my radio, such as triggering start and stop record or recentering the gimbal. So yeah, when the system is armed, you get a solid green light. When it's not armed, it'll be flashing ready like a standby light. So yeah, and the controller also beeps to tell you when it's armed and when it's disarmed. Okay, when you connect the phone app to the MasterLink, the light will turn blue, and you'll get your controls coming through on the app to tell you what you're commanding. This gives you a chance to be able to invert the controls if you want to. So you can see I'm turning left and it's going low. If you invert it and turn left, it goes high instead. That's so that when you run top mount or bottom mount, you can quite easily switch over the pitch and the yaw of the camera. Because when you flip the screen, it goes the wrong way. Then you've got all these different function controls as well, which I will show you outside. So yeah, I've got all mine assigned to all my different controls, like I said, across here. And yeah, you can see them moving in real time in the app, so that you can adjust them and assign what channels you want to do different functions. So yeah, let's head outside and show you how it works. Okay, so I'm hoping this little setup I've got here is going to be adequate to show you what's going on. See, I've got my controller here, Pandora, all fired up and connected to the master controller, and you can see I've got the MasterLink on the back there with the green flashing light, which means that it's connected to my controller. I've got my phone connected to the master controller so that I can screen record what it's seeing, and you can see when I arm it, I now have control. And yeah, you can see on the screen that's my house over there in the background. So got quite a few different little controls to go through, not that many but enough to show you. So let me just get rid of that. The obvious one you're going to need is to start recording. So, and you're going to want to be able to stop recording. Another one that you might not need so much I've got is photo. So it takes a photo, but it does put the camera into photo mode. So you need to trigger recording so that it goes back into video mode. So I'll just stop that for a second. Next up, if I move the gimbal around, I've got recenter. So you can just click that and recenter. Obviously I've got gimbal yaw to pitch and roll as well, and recentering recenters all of those. Next up, as I've got autofocus. So and you can choose where you want it to autofocus by moving these two potentiometers. So I've got them in the center position, so that should autofocus right in the middle there. And then if I move this, you see it goes down the screen a bit more. If I want to go up the screen, I can move it up, and then this one will be moving it over to the right or moving it over to the left. So you can choose where you want your autofocus spot to be by moving those potentiometers. And next up, you can activate focus wheel. So you move 3 position switch up, and I think I've got aperture control set on that one, so you can see it's changing the aperture as I move this. And then if I put the switch into the other position, then I've got got manual focus, like using the focus wheel, that you can use the little pots. When you put this back into the center, it goes back into autofocus mode, so you can trigger autofocus. And well, yeah, I guess that's actually all the controls. The good thing is that with this system, it just makes it so easy to flip and invert the controls, whereas with the DJI controllers you just can't do that. So yeah, being able to do whatever you want with the controls and adding your own expo and sharpness or whatever you want to do in your radio setup is all possible. So yeah, there's a general overview of all the little things that you can control just by using a regular controller and one DJI controller. Okay, so what I have here is my Pandora V2 in the top mount position, and that's set up on the front of my house here so that it will look out over the drive and stuff. I'm going to come around the side of my house and we're going to head over here to where I've got the master controller and the MasterLink set up. So if I just come over here. So I've got MasterLink connected to the master controller. I've got HDMI out going to SDR. I'm now going to turn on. That should clear itself up. There we go. So I've got the feed through onto the crystal sky. And I've got the SDR set up there. I've got my transmitter connected to the MasterLink for controlling the gimbal, and then I've got the TX that will connect to, I've got the RX that will connect to the TX, and I'm going to get the feed off onto my phone so that I can screen record and show you. So yeah, these are all connected now, so I'm just going to head out there right down to the end of the field, which is about 300 meters away. And I've set it all up in these woods so that it's like a bit of a penetration test for it. So yeah, we're going to give that a try now. I'm not too sure what's going on with the video here. I think it's since that SDR kicked in. So change that to maybe 2.4. Okay, so I've set it to 2.4 and it is jumping around a bit, but this is a bit of a stress test because I have got the thing right around a granite building over there. So on 2.4 it seems to be holding pretty steady and the SDR looks comfortable. So I'm going to head out across the field now and yeah, you'll see me when I'm at the end of the field and knackered. Okay, so I'm down the end of the field now and I've got the SDR still connected. It's 1080p, 60 FPS, getting about 15 megabits per second. Signal drops then a little bit as I turned it to the camera, so I don't know what you saw, but when I hold it like this I'm getting 12 megabits a second and all four bars green. So I'm just going to plug my phone into it now and pull up the feed. Okay, so I've got the phone connected to the app so that I can get the live feed up, and yeah, couldn't do a screen recording, but you can record in the app, so hopefully this works all right. And what I'm now going to try and do is hold this like that and use my transmitter. So if I arm the system now and move the sticks, you can see that I have control of the gimbal, and I can move the gimbal around and look at various things. The latency is incredibly good. I was a little bit worried because you're going through a couple of different systems here, but the latency is actually really, really good. I've got gimbal recenter there, and you can start and stop the recording, which does show in the OSD. Now, you would flip the screen normally so that the view wasn't upside down. But yeah, you can start and stop recording and move it all around. You've also got focus control, so it's set to center focus at the moment. So if I look at something a bit closer, like the wall, you can see that it just did a bit of a focus pulse, and now this is out of focus over there. So if you get that in the middle, hit the focus button and boom, in focus now. So you can also do f-stop, but I think it's actually set to auto, so you won't see much change, but you'll see that the f-stop is changing from 1.7 all the way up to its highest, which is 16. So you've got f-stop control and manual focus control, so you can choose, you can manually change your focus just by moving the pot on the screen. If I put that back into autofocus mode and trigger that, it brings back the autofocus. And yeah, so I'm quite far away from the master controller now, between 200 and 300 meters away. And obviously got no problem with connecting to the MasterLink with the Express LRS, and the SDR transmission is holding really well. That's punching through all those trees and stuff, and then we're just using the light bridge link to get around the side of the house, and it's actually providing a really good solid connection, really good latency. I think this is, this is definitely opening up possibilities for more uses and less issues with range, which I know a lot of people have. So, yeah. Okay, so I've set up a new test now in my garden because, yeah, the last test was really pushing the system quite hard because I was asking it to transmit 1080p 60 over the light bridge, which is always the worst connection that you can ask for. The more data you want to send, the less quality it's going to look and the harder it's going to struggle to send it. So you're going to get the most amount of glitches. So I was pushing that as hard as I could. I had it obscured so there was no line of sight. And for the eagle-eyed amongst you, you will have seen that I actually had the controller with the antennas pointing down the field rather than at the Pandora. So the controller was pointing in the opposite direction as well. But it still kept the connection, and then the SDR worked fine when I went all the way down the field, and it worked okay as a bit of a stress test. But what I want to do now is set up more of a like ideal circumstances, is like they're all like really close to each other. So just so that I can play around with those settings, that 1080p 60, and change it down and change between 5.8 and 2.4. And then I'm going to use the SDR to screen record it all. And I'm going to show you how it looks a lot better on our HDMI monitor than it does on the phone. And we're going to go through the settings, and we're going to see on the SDR how the bit rate changes between the different settings on the master controller. So I've got the SDR receiver there with HDMI monitor plugged in. I've got my phone ready to plug in to screen record, and I've got my transmitter there to control the gimbal. Over here I've got my master controller just like before, with the SDR connected over HDMI with MasterLink in the back. Over here I've got my Pandora V2 set up. So Pandora V2 will transmit over to the master controller over there, and we'll be picking it up on the SDR on the little picnic bench there. Okay, so I'm now getting the monitor feed through. That looks really terrible on this little screen. I don't know if those weird lines are coming out for you, so I'll have to see about that. But I'm screen recording on my phone as well, and you'll just have to take my word for it if it doesn't come out in the video. On the phone screen here you can see getting 26, 27 megabits per second, and this is still at 1080p 60. If I come back over to this screen, we can go into the settings here and just change it to 5.8. And then looking back here at the phone, not really any change. if you go into the settings here and you go into output mode, output format, you can change this from, let's just try 1080i 60. Oh, and I just saw my screens resetting, so that's a good sign. And yeah, it's saying 1080i 21 megabits per second. So it seems like it's actually a lower bit rate. So going back to the settings on here now, let's change this to something much lower. Let's go for the lowest. It's saying no video on the SDR. Okay, so can't do that, I guess. Let's try something more normal, like 720p 30. Yep, still saying no video. That's odd, maybe it does need 1080. So going back to here, let's try 1080p 24. Okay, yeah, it's back now, 1080p 24. So it must have to be 1080p, which is kind of funny. So that's sitting around 21 megabits per second. So my hope was to see that it was still always transmitting the highest bit rate possible, so that when you ran lower frame rates, you're getting more megabits per second. You're getting more megabits per frame, effectively. But it seems like no, if you run it on 1080p 60, you actually get about 5 or 6 megabits per second extra, I would say. Yeah, so maybe not the most exciting test. I was expecting to get a bit more out of it, but yeah, no, it seems like it works pretty well anyway, and you can get a clean enough feed to see what is going on in front of you and line up with the subject that you're filming. Obviously the footage off of the camera itself is going to be absolutely stunning, but by using an SDR, or even if you don't use the SDR, you could just use the live feed straight out of the controller. You're probably going to get even slightly better quality really, without it being retransmitted over the air. Okay, so here's my new setup. I've got the master controller there with the HDMI going straight into my monitor, and then just over there on the wall I've got my Pandora. So when maintaining a really decent connection between the master controller and the Pandora, that's when you're going to get the best video output. And by putting it straight out of HDMI into a monitor rather than broadcasting it over SDR, which does have some issues with some of the resolutions and settings, it allows you to output the best quality footage for tracking and using the live feed for filming with the Pandora. So right now I'm outputting 1080p 60 from the master controller into my HDMI monitor, and I'm using the MasterLink to control the gimbal. And it does provide a really nice smooth image that's quite easy to track your subjects and make sure that things are in focus. But because it's on the highest output setting, it's potentially not the most stable connection. So by using lower settings, you're able to transmit less bit rate, which takes less effort, so you should maintain a more consistent image. So if I'm going to switch the system now to 720p 60, and you can see, yeah, a little bit less detail, but you get a lot less artifacts on the screen as you're moving it around, which is going to make it a lot easier to track your subjects and making sure that everything's in focus. Now, in my previous tests when I was transmitting the video over SDR, I was unable to get 720 to work, and I was unable to get the broadcast mode to work. And it seems that 720p 60 is what broadcast mode outputs, but it does do a better job at maintaining a higher bit rate. So if I turn on broadcast mode now, you'll see that my screen doesn't reset. That's because it's the same frame rate and resolution, but the image becomes a lot smoother. It's almost like before it wasn't actually doing 60 FPS. Now it does proper 60 FPS and provides a really smooth image, making it even easier to track your subjects and make sure things are in focus. So you can, yeah, track your focus. Like I'll try and focus on this battery a second. And then back on myself. You can see there, yeah, I've got nice focus on that thing at the front, that little leaf. And then I can push the focus back to where I am. And yeah, by using a monitor, you'll be able to turn on focus lines and stuff. I don't have it on this monitor at the moment. But yeah, being able to, so long as you can maintain a decent connection between the master controller and your Pandora, the best feed you're going to get out of the system for controlling and viewing the live feed is by using a HDMI monitor out of the master controller and in broadcast mode, in my opinion. Then you just know that the onboard recording onto the SSD is going to be super nice and clear, and obviously you can record in all sorts of different specs and high qualities, ProRes and Cine D&G. So yeah, I feel that this is the best setup. By using the MasterLink, it gives you the ability to use a high-end controller with nicer gimbals to use, or even a third-party controller that has a joystick that runs on Express LRS or Crossfire. Okay, so the MasterLink certainly gives you the ability to invert the controls and makes using a Pandora system a lot easier. You can use your own controller or one of these joystick third-party controllers that you can get. I might be working on my own as well, coming soon. And yeah, really makes using the Pandora system a lot easier. Now, the next stage would be, of course, to make a naked master controller so that you can change the antennas and improve the range that way. I have one of those coming out soon, and that will be coming out very soon, actually, not too long after this. I'm trying to release them both at the same time, so they might even be out right now. So head over to the HaloRC website, check it out. There's links below and lots more details on the website that I may have forgotten to go over in this video. So yeah, if you haven't already seen the Pandora controller, go and check that out, and otherwise I'll see you in the next one. Laters.